Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined as always by Raj Giri, and tonight we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw for January 23rd, 2017. Now, Matt Morgan, unfortunately, could not be with us tonight, but he will be back. Actually, he'll be with us this Wednesday for our SmackDown Live recap, and then we'll also be talking with Matt about predictions for the Royal Rumble. But tonight, we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, the go-home Raw before the Royal Rumble. Raj and I'll give a bit of a preview of what to expect in the final pay-per-view. We had some more stuff announced tonight that we're going to be seeing during that show. Raj, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Finally over that cold. And I want to thank our fan base. I was actually really touched. I got a lot of nice DMs and emails and tweets from people saying they missed me on the show last week. So I'm glad you and Matt were able to hold it down. But, you know, I'm touched that the fan base cared so much.
Yeah. We're going to have all three of us on soon enough. Yeah, it's been a lot of people getting sick lately. Myself, I'm starting to come down with something, but I'll definitely be on this Wednesday. And Matt will be joining us for the first time on the Wednesday podcast this Wednesday at noon. So make sure to check it out with myself and Glenn.
Awesome, man. So let's talk about the show. We started off Roman Reigns. You know, what was interesting about this, it wasn't even necessarily that I was timing it, but it was amazing that, we had Roman there. We had the build-up, but, a couple minutes, Roman starts to talk. And I don't know if you noticed this, and I don't even want to say, oh, there weren't as many boos. There seemed to be some legit cheers for Roman in Cleveland tonight.
I mean, he usually gets some.
Yeah.
He definitely got more boos. It seemed like, to me, his typical reaction. I thought, in his match with Jericho, as the match went along, he was getting more and more cheers. But a lot of that had to do with Jericho and just, how well he can manipulate the crowd.
Yeah.
But, one thing I really noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, is him saying 40,000 people at the Alamo Dome. So it looks like they're going to be tarping off a good chunk of the stadium because, usually the last Royal Rumble did 60,000. So it looks like, they're going to be tarping it off and going for a 40,000 configuration, which, still a big crowd. But Definitely. It's odd. Like, they haven't really been pushing, like, Royal Rumble ticket sales or anything over the last few weeks, It's just, it's, and you would think with the stadium that size, you would. So, yeah,
maybe they do some discounts, something just to get more butts in the seats and make it look a little fuller on TV.
Yeah, just something even online, just more aggressive to, get the tickets moving. But yeah, that's what they're looking at is 40,000. So it will not be the biggest Royal Rumble of all time. That'll still go to the 1996 Rumble.
Interesting. Well, so Roman came out and then was interrupted by Owens and Jericho. So we set a match for them later in the show, rematch between Jericho and Reigns for the U.S. title. I thought it was an okay start to the show. I thought it took a little long, though, to really get things going. I mean, Owens and Jericho were, very funny, very entertaining as usual. But then, we had the promo for Goldberg teasing him coming up, which, of course, happened at the end of the show. There was a promo for NXT TakeOver San Antonio. But then we came back to the first real match of the night, and that was Gallows versus Cesaro. What did you think of that, Raj? I always think it sometimes sets a tone for Raw, what they choose for the first actual wrestling action. What did you make of that matchup kicking off the action for the night?
Really, up until this point, it just feels like the same thing we've been seeing the past few weeks,
Yeah.
It's just kind of the same, just a slight variation of the same thing they've been doing the last few weeks. So, it just kind of felt like running in place. Cesaro, they're going to be doing the pre-show match, the kickoff match, with two referees. It's going to be Cesaro and Sheamus defending against Gallows and Anderson. And, Cesaro still relegated to pre-show duty, even after all this time.
Well, there were some other pre-show surprises that were announced for Royal Rumble. But before we get too far into the episode, we'll be talking more about this later, but I want to let everyone know that this episode of the Wrestling Inc. podcast is brought to you by WWE Slam Crate, powered by Loot Crate. Tag into a bi-monthly box for the WWE Universe, loaded with exclusive and authentic collectibles, plus apparel that you can't get anywhere else. And you could save $3 off your first box at lootcrate.com/Wrestling Inc. when you sign up and use the coupon code Wrestling Inc. That's lootcrate.com/Wrestling Inc. So to your point, Gallows versus Cesaro definitely feels like what we've seen before, but then we had a nice segue that I really appreciated. Okay, so we had Mick talking backstage to Stephanie via speakerphone. Seth came in, apologized for interrupting. He wants to get his Royal Rumble spot, and then it was announced he was going to be going against Seth Rollins for only one man making it into the Rumble. Based on that, we had an interview breaking that up with Corey Graves and Bayley, but we'll talk about that in the context of what the promo they did with Charlotte also. But let's talk about this match, because I have to say, I mean, I really liked it. I'm a total Sami Zayn mark. I love anything that they do with him, but I love that they had him with Rollins face versus face, as it were, for the single spot, even with the fake out ending. I was very, very happy that Sami got the win. But what did you think of the matchup itself in the match?
I thought it was great. This is really where the show turned around for me. I thought, like, it really picked. I thought this was the best match on Raw in a long time. I mean, I thought this, fantastic. The second half, when they came back from break, I thought it was awesome. And then the little Triple H tease they did at the end there, just capped it off. So I thought it was really. I mean, I hate that this is awesome. This is awesome chance, but this was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they're so good together. It looked so, I mean, just in the ring, you could tell that these guys have worked together before. They have definite ring chemistry. And I like the storytelling they did with it. I mean, we've been talking about for a while now, there's pretty much, all but a certainty that it will be Triple H versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. This furthers the build up to that. And at the same time, gets fan favorite Sami Zayn in the Rumble. We'll talk about specific predictions a little later on. And of course, we'll go into more detail on that on Wednesday's podcast. But how do you think Zayn's going to fare? In some ways, I think in my mind, he's a dark horse. I know this is taking into account nothing behind the scenes, but I think he would certainly be a dark horse Cinderella story of a good trajectory we could tell using the Rumble as a kickoff point.
Just from how he's been used lately, I don't see him, I could see him lasting a little bit, but I don't see it, anything. I don't see him getting a big push in this Rumble.
Yeah, maybe a meaningful feud, maybe a meaningful story arc will come out of it for him. But what's interesting, so I did catch up and watch last week's Raw with Sami sort of subbing in for his little Shield fanboy fantasy there, and I don't know, I think it's a good sign that they're still booking him in these prominent matches. They're not booking him like an A-list talent, but he's still in the mix, which to me is great to see as a fan who was very worried that he was buried for a while there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's upper mid card, really, or upper mid card. But he's he's great in the ring. He just showed it tonight. So he keeps at it. It'll get there, I think.
Yeah, I try to think. Has he had a really bad match against anyone? I mean, on the main roster that you could think of.
I'm sure he's had a few. Didn't he wrestle Titus?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, so
lackluster, but not a bad match. Just a lackluster.
I guess it wouldn't have been terrible, but yeah.
But no, you're absolutely correct, though, that this is where the show really picked up. In fact, I think from that stretch, probably up through the tag match, certainly probably up until that last cruiserweight match, I would say that Raw had a streak of close to 2 hours of moving, of shaking, of flying, of feeling like, oh my God, this isn't just the show that goes on forever.
Yeah, did we skip the Bayley promo?
We did skip the Bayley promo. Let's talk about that in the context of Charlotte. But you know what? Okay. Let's cover it right now. Let's cover it now. This is good. So we had Bayley and Corey Graves. This is exactly between last week and this week, as we talked about. They're just repeating the Daniel Bryan storyline, but even with more of a, oh my God, she was such a fan. I mean, what do you make of this setup with it, and how do you think she was on the mic with Corey?
I like the idea of it, but I just think there's just something missing with her promos on these. Like, she just comes across as, even though everything she's saying is real, it just doesn't sound like she's, believable. Like they're scripting her to where it doesn't come across as natural. So I mean, I thought this promo didn't do her any favors. I thought it was pretty weak.
Well, you know what was interesting about this, though? So by contrast, Charlotte, who's someone that I know we've talked about before, could be a little awkward on the mic in a live situation. I thought Charlotte's pre-taped promos tonight, her interview with Corey Graves, actually was Charlotte came across the best I've seen her come across, just as sort of speaking naturally and in a way that, maybe it didn't put you on her side, but she was at least, compelling and stringing sentences together without, a crowd chanting what at her every other line. But with Bayley, this is the thing though, man. So you're right that there was something that was a little, I don't want to say unnatural, but it wasn't like that flow of charisma that we saw in some of her earlier NXT work, but this was pre-taped. I mean, maybe we could talk about this with Matt in greater detail on Wednesday, but what's the deal? Like, they had a chance. This was, they could have done as many takes as time would allow to perfect this.
Yeah. Unless they thought it was good enough. Like maybe they felt like it didn't require spending that much time on it. But I thought it's just the stuff with Bayley hasn't worked the last couple of weeks. Even though they're trying to do what they should be doing, with their character, but I just don't know if it's the scripting or what, but something's not coming across.
Well, the craziest part of this, and I don't know why they didn't just reuse this. If you watch last week's episode, they showed the clip of her reading that paper on Breaking Ground, right? And it's like, why not just show that same video package from Breaking Ground? My recollection of that was that whole thing was really good when she was talking about her childhood. I mean, it was the exact same beats of the story, but in a much more natural way.
Yeah, and I think that's what it needs, is more of the natural, as opposed to being very overly scripted.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, I can't remember the last time this happened, right? Did you notice, and maybe I just do being from the Bay Area, like between last week and this week, especially really putting over the Bay Area in terms of talking about, I mean, last week she was at San Jose, SAP Center. This week, even talking about Newark, which is a suburb of San Jose, where she's actually from, but nobody says Newark because you're going to think of Newark, New Jersey, not Newark, California. But I thought it was really interesting how she worked so much of the geography into it. That's not normally found in most.
Yeah, I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, it was just strange to me because normally they just say San Jose and that's it. But yeah, she was really leaning on that. I don't know. I'm rooting for her. It would take a lot. What would it take for you not to root for Bayley? How would she have to not even get heat, but how would she just have to lose your interest as a face?
And they keep doing this, and they'll get there.
I was gonna say maybe she kicks a puppy, maybe if she just like smacks a child in the front row, but no, apparently just.
I mean, her reaction, last week during that segment was pretty lukewarm at best.
Yeah, the poems last week, that was something else. The less said about that, the better. So, of course, as we mentioned, Sami Zayn won the match with Rollins. We had the Triple H fake out. But then we went to a cruiserweight match. Okay, so Tony Nese, Arya Daivari, Drew Gulak versus TJ Perkins, Mustafa Ali, and Jack Gallagher. Here's the most notable thing about this match for me. They talked so much about the I Forfeit match from 205 Live last week and didn't show any clips. We didn't see the package, as it were.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing, Gallagher, he got a pretty good pop coming out.
Well, he's the most charismatic man. I mean, like legitimately just everything about him, right? Not only his character, not only the way he talks, but his moveset, everything. I mean, he's the best thing in the cruiserweights right now.
Yeah, so he's working, like it's the cruiserweights it's taking a while to get there, if it will get there, but Gallagher is, he's one of the guys that is getting over, him and Neville. So that's good to see. And Mustafa Ali, I thought, he didn't do too much tonight, but the stuff he did was, really, it was spectacular, that finisher. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
No, I thought the moves were good. I thought it was an enjoyable match, but just so interesting though, for them to talk about something that happened on 205 Live without showing the match as they have in recent weeks, or showing high points from it. I thought that was a real missed opportunity there. So then after that, we had a New Day tease. New Day comes out to the ring, interrupted by Enzo and Cass, interrupted by Rusev and Jinder Mahal and Lana, and then Titus O'Neil came out. And just when you think we're going to see more Titus O'Neil New Day action, thankfully, it turned into a 4-on-4 match with Braun Strowman, Rusev, Jinder Mahal, and Titus O'Neil versus the New Day, Enzo Amore, and Big Cass. So, Raj, what did you think of this matchup?
First, did you notice Sasha Banks' husband making a cameo?
I did not.
Backstage, yeah.
Oh, that was him with the pop out thing with the
with the New Day, that backstage segment.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I thought, again, I'm a fan of Rusev's mic work, so I like the handsome Rusev stuff, and but yeah, I was just wondering, like, what job guy are they going to have, team with Titus, Jinder, and Rusev, and so it was a cool little surprise, and so yeah. I thought that was a good demonstration, a good exhibition for him. And at the end, the crowd was hot for him and Enzo, even though they knew where it was going. So I thought this was great. And I thought, the Big Show, you you say it on a given night, like, oh, Big Show's going to feud with Braun Strowman. I think a lot of people would groan, but they did it. They did it perfect tonight. I thought people were like really into that, and Show looked amazing. And Strowman, I mean, he's huge, but
Big Show's
standing next to the Big Show made me appreciate just how big he is. Because you know.
So do you think that's going to come out? I mean, actually, that would make sense. I mean, it's maybe not. It's certainly not Taker versus Strowman or anything, but I could see, I mean, Big Show versus Strowman, right? I mean, Big Show versus Braun, that could be a solid storyline to come out of the Rumble and carry us for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that, they got the February pay-per-view coming up, or I guess it's early March for Raw with Fastlane, so I could see them doing that there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Now that Big Show's been out of action for so long, if you were just like not looking at the screen, not watching anything, I just play two songs for you. Could you tell the difference between the Big Show's theme song and the theme from the sitcom Roseanne? If I just put those on back to back, could you identify each one just from the music at the beginning? Because in my head, they've become the same song.
If you take out, if it's the Big Show, right? Because that kind of
goes even with that, I think like, oh, is Roseanne on? They're very similar songs.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But no, Big Show though, looking jacked, looking great, and I think, man, I'm stoked for the Rumble. Like, you know what I feel like this is like? This is like the WWE All-Star Game. I mean, but like one that actually people care about.
I think this is the most stoked I've been for the actual Rumble match itself. I can't remember when. So it's been a long time. So it's awesome because it's just so this year is legitimately pretty unpredictable. There's so many different ways they can go.
And better than Survivor Series. Survivor Series tried to play it up with the idea of teams, but you know what this feels like to me? I don't know how much you read comic books as a kid, but to me, this feels like Marvel's Secret Wars. Like the idea, like we have all the heroes and all the villains together in like a big brawl, just going at it. And I love that. I love that. There's so many names involved, and so much so. Do you have the complete rundown of who's of all the Rumble entrants so far? I'm sure it's on Wrestling Inc.
Yeah, it's on Wrestling Inc. If you go to the event section, it's all updated. So. They're all there. I think it's 22 people now that are official. So
we got 8 slots. 8 slots for surprises.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll probably be a couple more named on SmackDown. So probably leaving us with 5 to 6 spots open.
But it's exciting, man. I mean,
some of these UK guys are being called down this weekend. I don't know if they put them in the Rumble because I just think so many people won't know who they are that it'd be kind of a waste of a spot. But like Tyler Bate, who else was there? I'll have to double check, but it just seems like maybe they're going to use him for something else, maybe a kickoff show match. But putting him in the Rumble, I think it's kind of a waste of a couple spots.
Now, speaking of surprises, we can do this because he's not here. But Matt Morgan, those personal issues. You think some crash training? You think surprise entrant?
He's swerving us.
Could be.
Except that he's going to be on Wednesday now. If he comes up, if he's sick on Wednesday, then something's up.
Tune in Wednesday to see if Matt's at the Performance Center. So I really dug that match. I thought that was really cool tonight. Love the stare down between Big Show and Braun. And we talked about this. This is kind of like what we were complaining about, what I've been complaining about. They gave us a different matchup tonight just by putting Braun in the mix there and having Braun and Enzo, just seeing guys that you normally don't see fighting each other.
Exactly.
It freshens up the show. I have this thought.
Yeah, instead of having Reigns wrestle Jericho every week, put him against Gallows or, someone else. Just it's different. And you could still do the storylines. You could still have Owens on commentary. You could still keep that feud going, but have the matches be mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I hope they do more of this. Even with Braun, if we get another Braun squash run, I would love to see him just battle everyone on the roster. Just put him against everyone. Figure out how he's going to win, but just change it up for the love of God. Do something different. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the rest of the show in a moment, but want to take another minute here and give some love to the sponsor of this episode, to one of the sponsors of this episode. You heard me talk about at the top of the show, Slam Crate. WWE Slam Crate powered by Loot Crate. Now, we talked about it before. It's a bi-monthly box for the WWE universe. It's loaded with exclusive and authentic collectibles plus apparel you can't get anywhere else. It is handpicked and created by Loot Crate, and each crate contains over $60 in value. Here's what we want you to do. Head over to lootcrate.com/wrestlinginc. And when you're there, you can sign up for the next crate that's going to come out. And what's cool is in this next one, you're going to get Seth Rollins' authentic limited edition t-shirt that you can only get through Slam Crate. In addition to that, though, you're going to get all sorts of other stuff. So I'm going to show you some things that were in the last crate that showed up at my house shortly before Christmas. So we got a Daniel Bryan exclusive Yes beanie. Got a Bailey Bear was in the last crate. Got a John Cena die-cast metal figure here. And there was a limited edition AJ Styles t-shirt that came in there also. So we've talked about some of the other stuff that's been in previous months. We had limited edition Sasha Banks sunglasses came in one crate along with a Nakamura poster. Also, and there was Mitch the Plant. Remember Dean Ambrose's short-lived sidekick. And what's so cool about Loot Crate, what Slam Crate powered by Loot Crate, is that this is put together for the hardcore WWE fans. Stuff like Mitch the Plant, they would never sell that. But if you sign up for Slam Crate, you can get cool, die-hard fan merch inside your Slam Crate each month. So what we want you to do again is head on over to lootcrate.com/wrestling inc. And when you sign up and use the coupon Wrestling Inc., you're going to save $3 off your first box. That's lootcrate.com/wrestling inc. Sign up. It's like a gift to yourself. It's great when these come in the mail. It's like you open it up. It's like, oh my God, there's all this cool merch. I forgot I even subscribed to it. Now here it is, presents for me. Raj, you got the last one too, right? Was it as big of a hit at your household?
Absolutely. And I think I wore the AJ Styles shirt on a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's awesome, man. And yeah, it's a great deal. I definitely recommend it to any WWE fan. You got to get it. And did you mention the poster in there too? The Ultimate Warrior poster?
Oh yeah, that's right. There was an Ultimate Warrior poster in the last one. So they put all sorts of stuff in there. I mean, that's the thing. Literally, you can forget how much stuff you get in your crate when you're talking about it because it's so jam-packed full of WWE goodness. So that's lootcrate.com/wrestling inc. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. Also, while we're talking about sponsors, let's take a moment and thank DDP Yoga for sponsoring the Wrestling Inc. podcast. So, you know, DDPY, you've seen just the results from stuff like their awesome Max Pack, which is used by the likes of Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Mick Foley, and tons of other WWE superstars, including Goldust. They love using DDPY, and for a limited time, you can get the DDPY DVDs for 25% off, plus 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app, or for digital only, just get the DDP Yoga Now app for 25% off. And the way you can do that is by going to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. They also have a deal where you can buy a max or a combo pack at 25% off and get 50% off the second one. Hey, it's 2017. January is almost over. Can you believe that? Like the year is already 8% done for 2017. Don't let it pass you by. Take control of your health. Take control of your life with DDP Yoga. Go to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah, and real quick with the Slam Crate, you know what this is? Because this was in the Slam Crate too.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, it looks like cufflinks, but it's too big. It's the belt.
I thought it was just a pin.
It's an Intercontinental pin for your shirt.
Yeah, just an IC Championship pin.
All right.
Hey, cool. Let everyone know you're the champ, man.
It looks awesome. I just didn't know what it was, so I thought I'd ask you.
Now that we've passed the Miz returning the prestige to the IC title, wear your IC pin with pride. Exactly. All even though Dean Ambrose is holding that belt.
And they're probably going to change those belts. The Intercontinental and the US.
Whether they're going to swap them between brands?
No, they're redesigning them.
Oh, really? I mean, because the IC title hasn't that been the same since day one?
They changed it before. And then I think it was the Miz that actually brought back, or Cody Rhodes brought back the original IC title design.
Yeah, it's been the white belt with that design for a while, but that's interesting that they're redesigning it. That'll be interesting to see the makeover. Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, because I don't think looking in the recap here. Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll mention that when we get to it. Pardon me, folks.
I got to mention one thing. When they showed that replay of the 1995 Royal Rumble where Shawn Michaels and the Bulldog started and they finished it. That ending, the way they were able to pull that off, that was just one of the coolest Royal Rumble endings ever, with him dangling, and being able to, because that's a risky move to, take that clothesline and just hang there on, with the one arm. So, I mean, just watching that now, it just still amazes me. They pulled that off perfect.
So that's something here. This is in the business what they call a tease. But for Wednesday, we're going to talk to Matt Morgan about the mechanics of a Royal Rumble match and about what goes on behind the scenes in terms of how that's all choreographed and put together. Because you got to think, with all those different guys, all those different spots, it's got to be quite a complicated affair.
And exactly, and how much time you have to work on the spots, or if any. So we'll get a bunch of your questions in this Wednesday.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the WWE United States title match, the rematch between Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho, a match that ended in DQ with Kevin Owens coming in. I actually really thought something. I mean, do you feel like they're using the disqualification as too much of a cop out with these title matches?
I mean, I figured that's what was going to happen. Yeah, they weren't going to have Reigns win it. They're not going to have him lose. But the one thing is Reigns was left standing, and with WWE math, it's not 100% as always, but it's like 80. So we'll see. One of those world title changes is most likely going to change hands. I mean, there's always a chance at both. But maybe it's Owens walks away with the title, and then they do something at Fastlane.
Yeah. Well, although Fastlane, man, I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on how big of a pay-per-view they want to do that on, right?
Well, they got Goldberg wrestling at it, so
which is crazy.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fastlane is.
My guess is that Reigns still wins, but you never know.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, sorry, sites that autoplay things. I was just calling up the Royal Rumble card there, so we could talk about that in a few moments. But so here's the thing about the DQ. I wasn't even going to say it's every other title match. I feel like it's 3 out of 4 title matches now, and with some sort of reason why, count out, DQ, interference. I mean, I don't know. Is it getting to the point where that's become such a predictable finish that it really, like, there are no stakes anymore for these title matches because it's not going to really have an ending?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think that's about right. At least title matches on Raw. So, it does get annoying. You would think, you could come up with something a little bit more creative. Yeah. You just hear that collective groan when they do the DQ. But the whole spot of this match was to get Owens in that cage and have him floating around. So they got to that, and the fans. I mean, they got the fans kind of cheering Roman by the end, and not 100%, but like 60, which is more than.
To me, it sounded like so much. I actually wondered, are they piping in cheers? Because I was like, this seems like a better response than he's gotten in quite some time. But the spot of that match for me was, and I mean, I give them points for planning it, even though I thought the execution was so. But Jericho dangling while Roman did the Superman punch at the end, like I like that at least they tried to do something a little different and more choreographed and interesting with that.
Yeah. I thought. I mean, Owen sold it great, so I thought it was good.
Yeah. So after the bell, the fighting continued. Yeah. Owens Jericho were pissed, so it's a no DQ stipulation added to Sunday's Universal Title match. Owens threw a fit, stormed off. So we had the sit down interview with Charlotte. We touched upon that earlier, but yeah, I don't know. I mean. So let me ask you this, if Bayley is losing your enthusiasm based on how you're treating her, is Charlotte picking any of that up, or are you in danger of just becoming sort of indifferent to the whole thing?
I mean, Charlotte's doing fine. Like I thought last week her segment with Bayley just went too long. Yeah. I mean, I think she's doing good. Like you believe her. Like you believe that she believes that she is superior. They go a little overboard, but I thought she did well with this promo.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I mean, she sounded the most natural that she sounded in a long time, which I thought was nice. And I just wanted to share with you, I had a conversation the other day with someone who's like a Charlotte mark, does not care for Bayley, does not care for Sasha Banks, and thinks Charlotte is single-handedly bringing back the WWE women's division, which I thought was very interesting. I did not know Charlotte actually had fans.
Yeah. I mean, everyone does at some point, right?
Yeah, like that one guy that wore the Luke Harper shirt to an event, and Luke Harper actually stopped and was like, "Oh my God, someone's wearing a Luke Harper shirt."
That's where he made his 70 cents in royalties that month.
Yeah. No, but I thought Charlotte was good tonight. But I think, they just need to give her some stakes. They need to give her a viewpoint to care about. Also, genetically superior, kind of a weird vibe, kind of a weird hook to put behind all that. But yeah, no, I thought tonight she came across okay. So I give her credit for that. Let's talk about what they did with Nia Jax. Nia Jax versus Ray Lynn. So Ray Lynn, assuming local enhancement talent, and squash match. But then Nia, grabbing the after that, calling out Sasha Banks. Sasha runs out, and the real thing that came out of this, we predicted this a few weeks ago. Sasha versus Nia on the kickoff show Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing there'll probably be another match or two announced for the kickoff. One for SmackDown tomorrow night. But yeah,
Yeah, but this is, I mean, Sasha hasn't been on a kickoff show match in quite some time. So,
yeah. Uh, but at least at least you're on the show.
that's true. That's true. Although you got to wonder
I mean,
the
this is a loaded show.
it is so much so that the start time is going to be earlier. Start time is going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, and the kickoff show is going to start 5 p.m. Eastern. So, Raj, it's your dream come true. You're going to get to watch 6 hours of wrestling on Sunday,
Yeah.
and then come and talk about it for an hour afterward.
And I'm sure they'll probably add a talking Raw or Raw talk as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's but I think the Rumble is one of those events that just goes fast.
Yeah.
Like with that Rumble match, it'll probably take, I'm guessing, an hour and 15 minutes.
That would set the record if it goes much longer than that.
Yeah, but with all the stars they got, I'm guessing it's gonna be one of the longer ones. And yeah, it just goes fast. You're just like waiting for each elimination and each entrance. So I'm excited.
So I want to touch upon this only because Matt Morgan's not here, and we're not allowed to talk about this when Matt Morgan's here. But there was an Emelina promo that would show. Now, Raj, you had said to me before, hey, this is taking a long time, but it's no Brodus Clay. Brodus Clay, in your mind, being the longest running performer that they've teased before he made his debut. So tonight, out of curiosity, I looked that up. Brodus Clay vignettes, best I can tell, started running in October of 2011. Brodus Clay made his Raw debut, re-debut, as it were, after the vignettes, because he had appeared before as Del Rio's bodyguard. But he made his debut in like January 12th, 2012, meaning from beginning of October to mid-January. Emelina, beginning of October, now to late January. I think this has surpassed the Brodus Clay record.
All right. Well, that's something me and Matt were joking last week. It'd be funny if she shows up and she's got a walker and she's all old and like she's aged, gray hair. But yeah, I mean it's a rib obviously at this point, but I honestly do think they do something with her next week. Who knows? She might even be involved in the Sasha Nia Jax match or something, to get thrown in the mix. So
yeah, that would be acceptable.
The night after the Rumble makes the most sense.
Absolutely. But she will, at least if someone else can point to the record, give me dates, people, in the comments here. I want to know if something longer than Brodus Clay or Emelina for a tease that has still yet to happen. But yeah, certainly taking their sweet time with this one. So here's the part. It was after this match. So let's just, mark it officially. Rollins versus Zayn up until Rich Swann versus Noam Dar. Like that's where I thought tonight Raw was actually on fire, and it felt a little like an episode of SmackDown. It was a little fresh, a little interesting, a little faster paced. And then we got to this match.
Yeah. And Noam Dar, he comes as close to dropping an F-bomb as you can on live TV with the way he says Fox.
Yeah.
Alicia Fox.
And was it Austin Aries that said they referred to her as hot chocolate? I mean, why didn't he just, invoke a more politically correct term like jungle fever while he was at it?
No, I miss that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. The Alicia Fox, the WWE writers don't know how to write relationships, and like just one week just jumping right away to Noam Dar after breaking up with Cedric Alexander. It's lazy stuff, but no one cares about the storyline anyway. So.
Yeah, and Alicia, I can't believe I'm going to say this because I like this part of her characteristic. It's not that she needs to dial down the crazy, but just maybe don't yell quite as loud. Mike's clip at a certain point, it's just not comfortable to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see her away from all this and work with Emma. At least give her something to do.
Absolutely. I thought she did an admirable job with the Nia Jax feud. That was short-lived there. I'd love to see Alicia back in the ring and not just be arm candy at this point. So after that, okay. So we Swan called Neville out. So what's the match that we got? Cedric Alexander versus Neville on 205 Live, and then what do we have for the Rumble? Is it going to be a Rumble match or a pre-show match?
It's a Rumble match, a main card. So
wow,
yeah. So that's a big step for the cruiserweights.
especially when Sasha Banks is on the pre-show. Yes, that is a very big step for the cruiserweights.
Yeah, but I think every match on here, let me double check this. But isn't every match not that isn't the Rumble match a title match?
It would appear so. We have the 2017 Royal Rumble, Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, AJ Styles versus John Cena for the WWE Championship, Charlotte Flair versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship, and of course, Rich Swann versus Neville for the Cruiserweight Championship. If this is a 4-hour pay-per-view, that Rumble is going to be long.
Well, I'm guessing on SmackDown they'll probably announce a Intercontinental title match.
Well, yeah, that rounds it out.
And or a tag match or a tag. There's no SmackDown titles right now on the line other than the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
So you would think that they're going to add a couple SmackDown matches to this card. Dean Ambrose versus The Miz, I think, but they're both in the Rumble, right? So
yeah.
I guess you could do Alexa Bliss. I don't know. You could do her against Becky Lynch with Mickie James in Alexa Bliss's corner again. You would think there's one more, but yeah, it's looking like the main card every match will be a title match.
I don't think they're going to overdo the SmackDown stuff because Elimination Chamber coming up 3 weeks after.
2 weeks after, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. No, 2 weeks after. Yeah, so I don't think SmackDown's going to get.
But I think with such a big pay-per-view, you got to have a little more of a SmackDown presence. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be too much, but I'm sure they're going to probably have one more title match on there.
Yeah, no, that certainly makes sense. So let's talk about how they ended the show, because man, this is really what drove home just how big this is going to be. We had Goldberg announced. Goldberg came out. Now Goldberg hit his head before coming out, and I tweeted it out. But man, somebody couldn't toss him a towel like at any point during that.
Well, I think they wiped it off, and then it just came back.
Yeah,
he busted his head when he hit the door. It seems like he got a little concussion too, because he could not get that promo going.
Yeah, but thankfully, to prove how big this was, it was like, oh my God, Brock Lesnar's here. And then once you accepted like that Brock Lesnar was there, oh my God, the Undertaker's here. I mean, they're really pulling out the stops to have those guys on camera. I mean, the Undertaker for 30 seconds before cutting to the end, just to hype up the Rumble for this weekend.
Yeah, I love this last segment, it took Goldberg a little bit to get going, but I thought it just made the Rumble feel that big. Like it just made you realize, you got the 3 All-Stars. There's 3 biggest stars in this match. You could have added maybe a Braun Strowman or someone from this era, like a full-timer. But it probably was perfect the way that they did it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I loved it. Got me jazzed, got me pumped for this pay-per-view. I mean, that was a go-home segment. The go-home segments they've been doing lately have been just weak. And so I thought they really nailed it out of the park on this one.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they've, we talked about this before, but they've just run into the ground too much. I mean, the different configurations, of Reigns, Rollins, Jericho, Owens, and Strowman. I mean, it seems like the 5 of them in the mix continuously. Last week we had Sami Zayn thrown into that. But yeah, I love that the show ended, bringing out the big guns and really setting a tone. I mean, anything can happen with this Royal Rumble. I'm hoping it's not now to the point where expectations will be so high because it's such a stacked lineup that it can't help but disappoint,
These things are usually so loaded anyway, and enough surprises that there, the year like Sheamus won, I think was a big bust. So there are years where they don't live up to expectations, but I guess let's not overthink it unless it does, Yeah. We'll see. So far, the odds have been kind of fluctuating all over the place. It's gone from Taker as the favorite to win to Braun Strowman to Goldberg. So, they don't know yet. It hasn't leaked. So yeah.
Well, so wasn't it just the other day I saw headlines? Didn't they just announce like Taker is due for another major surgery?
Yeah, his hip at some point he's got to get it done. So, but I think he's going to hold off until he's done and then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, he just needs to come in there, do a couple, choke slams, and it's all. I mean, really, right? I mean, in the Rumble, Taker, that's just show up, make an appearance, slam some dudes, roll his
Yeah,
eyes
yeah.
in the
You
back
don't
of
have
his
to do
head.
too much, and yeah, he had hip surgery. Uh, Seems like he's good to go, and yes, he doesn't have to do too much and rest up for Mania. But yeah, it'll be cool seeing where they go. I mean, it's still kind of hard to tell. I mean, you got Strowman in the mix. Lesnar and Goldberg seems like that's pretty set, but and Seth Rollins and Triple H. But with Reigns and Cena and AJ and Taker, it just seems all up in the air.
Well, so let's talk about surprise entrance in a second. But first, just to fully wrap it up, because I know week in and week out, people feel we were very hard on Raw when we grade it or give it, a rating. Just encapsulating tonight's Monday Night Raw. What do you think the episode scored on the Raj scale?
I would give it for time like a grade.
Yeah.
I'd give it a B. I think the last 2 hours were really good. If the first hour was good as well, I would give it an A. But yeah, I think a good solid B plus because of how strong that last segment was.
Yeah, I think B plus would be entirely fair. Really, I mean, the weak segments, there were very few weak segments, kind of weaker open. Especially the Gallows versus Sheamus thing, just sort of running that into the ground, and then that second cruiserweight match. But aside from that, weren't any real stinkers this week. So I think
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't anything totally bad, or even slightly bad. So Nia Jax's promo I thought was uh, pretty bad, but she sounded it's weird, like she's this destroyer, but then her promo she sounded like a Valley girl.
she's smiling now. The last 2 weeks, she's been smiling more on TV, and it's a
Yeah.
little different look for her. But maybe we'll see a little more personality. I'll say this week, it had someone come in the room who is not a fan of WWE wrestling, and for the first time in a long time, I was not embarrassed to be watching Monday Night Raw.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the best testament you can give it.
Yeah, people talking about Goldberg forgetting his lines. You know what I think it was? I think he was having a hard time getting out WWE Universal Champion.
Yeah.
Because it's so probably so unnatural for him to say that, because it seemed like that's where he was getting hung up.
Well, and yeah, I could certainly see that. And plus, I mean, I don't know. Look, does anyone really think Goldberg's doing a championship run here? I mean, is that? I'm now watch. I say that we're gonna smash cut to, oh my God, Goldberg won the Rumble. But I mean, I don't think, right. This is just like a continuation of him and Brock. Like,
But what if they make him and Brock for the title? I mean, there's always a chance they could do that. And if they feel that's the money match, and they want to add something to it, and they got both guys they're both willing to wrestle afterwards. So
yeah, but that doesn't help the WWE in the long run at all. I mean, isn't that a big step?
well, it
back?
depends. Whoever wins that, what you do with them. If you use that to get a new young guy over, then, and granted, we've said that many times in the past. They usually don't do that, but yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But let's talk about some Rumble predictions. So Kurt Angle pulled out of an indie date where he was going to do some commentary this weekend. What do you think? You think he's going to show up as an entrant in the Rumble?
I think it would be great, but yeah, I mean, I actually thought it was more likely until they announced him for the Hall of Fame, just for the surprise aspect. It's something they've never done, where they announce someone for the Hall of Fame and then they're a surprise in the Rumble. So, but there's a first time for everything. So I think I could see him and Samoa Joe being in it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think they both make sense. I think maybe we get one other NXT call up, maybe a Ty Dillinger, which I know the internet is so ready for that. It's just going to be, I mean, it's just going to be so disappointing.
Yeah, I think they should just do it. I don't think they'd have him in long, but I can almost feel them chanting 10, 10, right, before the number 10 entrance comes out. So I think they should do it. I could see them bringing some old stars back. Sid Vicious. I could see them if he's physically fit and can take a over the top bump. Because since it is 20 years since he wrestled a title match at that stadium. So so Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle are my picks for the big surprises.
So tomorrow night on SmackDown Live, we saw that he was trying to get it trending, doing some pre-show videos I think that were online about it, but do you think tomorrow night they announce James Ellsworth entering the Rumble for SmackDown?
Probably, but who cares? You know,
That'll be what comes out as number 10. That'll be the Vince McMahon just giving the finger.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably be the fast elimination. You know, they always have the one guy that's they try to top the previous record for fastest elimination. So I could see him being in that spot.
Yeah. But no, with 8 spots left, I mean, that certainly leaves some opportunities there. That's the thing. They don't have to I don't think they need a lot of surprises. They just need some.
Well, you know, every year they have the monster that gets a ton of eliminations, right?
Yeah.
You got to think that's going to be Braun Strowman this year.
Yeah.
But you got to think that Taker and Lesnar and Goldberg will get a few eliminations themselves. So you're talking about, you know, a pretty decent chunk, you know, of eliminations probably just from these 4 or 5 guys. So yeah.
And do you think we'll get any undercard guys? I mean, do you think Kurt Hawkins or shows up? You know, that they just
if they have no one else, yeah. But
like, go out there, Kurt, it's your moment.
Yeah. I mean, you do need those breaks where, you know, you can't have all huge names, I guess.
I don't know, man. Looking at what's announced so far, this is, I mean, there's going to be a pop for every single one of these entrants so far.
Let's see. I think you're right.
Goldberg, Lesnar, Undertaker, Sami Zayn, Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, The Big Show, Big E, Kofi, Xavier, Baron Corbin is probably
Sheamus probably not. Baron Corbin probably not.
But
Luke
Dean
Harper
Ambrose,
probably not.
The Miz, Ziggler, Cesaro, Bray, Randy, Rusev, Big Cass. Yeah, man, this is pretty stacked. I mean, yeah, I think Sheamus and Corbin are going to get the least big or get the least reaction, as it were.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, God, this is pretty stacked. This is looking good. I'm really excited about this, especially coming right after TakeOver on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun weekend and TakeOver. There hasn't been as much buzz for this year's TakeOver. I feel like I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's the problem. Look, I know I get a lot of crap about this in the comments. It's talking about how I've fallen off NXT since the draft, but it's the reason why a lot of people have fallen off NXT is if you were watching NXT a year ago, you could be the number 1 NXT fan. Almost everyone you loved on NXT is now on the main roster. And I think the reason there's not as much buzz for the TakeOver San Antonio card is just that we don't have as much familiarity. We don't have as much of an investment. I mean, yeah, Bobby Roode versus Shinsuke. I think the women's 4-way with Asuka is interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. You know, I think that's a chance to build up some of that female talent. But we've talked about this before. The Authors of Pain, man. I mean, come on. They're not Dash and Dawson. They're not American Alpha. They're not even. I mean, the Ascension at least had some sort of, you know, moxie and over the top element. The Authors of Pain are just kind of boring, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking forward to any of these matches other than, you know, Shinsuke and Bobby Roode and Roderick Strong and, you know, Andrade Cien Almas. That could be good.
Yeah, but
that's about it. It definitely doesn't have the same buzz as the other ones have had.
This is probably the weakest TakeOver card since one of the ones before. I mean,
probably the weakest one yet.
So yeah, I mean, well, pre-TakeOver Brooklyn, I mean, there were some lesser, but it was only because they weren't really stars yet.
Yeah, I felt like all of them still had. Yeah, I mean, it did once they started going to the arenas for a TakeOver. It took on a different life of its own. But even then, you know, when they did the women's 4-way, was that a main event on a TakeOver?
I think there was
or was that the co-main?
The Brooklyn one, or you think the Brooklyn one was the after show, or the week after.
Oh, okay.
It was what they taped before. The one with the botch that they did the same night as Bayley.
I'm forgetting now.
Yeah, no, it all blurs after a while.
Yeah.
But you had stuff. I mean, you know, like you had Sasha Becky. I mean, like they've had some great matches. I think the women's 4-way in this one definitely sounds interesting. And I've been watching. Okay, so to the people that attack me in the comments, I've been watching a little bit online, trying to catch up a little more on NXT, see what I'm missing. And I'll tell you, there's some stuff that I like. You know, I like what Peyton Royce and Billie Kay have been doing. I really like what Sanity's been doing. I like Gargano and Ciampa. I just don't think, I mean, Gargano and Ciampa and TM61 are not as compelling as American Alpha and Enzo and Cass were.
Yeah, I feel like there's a little lack of charisma right now.
Yeah.
You got a lot of great wrestlers in NXT, but a real lack of, a good, charismatic guy like you had with, you got Shinsuke, but you had a bunch of people before, and I feel like it's kind of missing right now.
Yeah. You know what I'm excited though, speaking of which, that I saw announced this week, you could probably tell me when it's happening, but I'm excited to see Cody Rhodes versus Dalton Castle in Ring of Honor. I saw that was
Oh yeah. I forget when that's happening. I'll look that up real quick, but yeah. Is that WrestleMania weekend?
I'm not sure if it's that far out. Let's see.
Well, they have the
Ring of Honor is the
no, it's just a few weeks, February 12th.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that'll be good. Man, Dalton Castle, I really like. Yeah, I don't like him enough to get full on into Ring of Honor. But everything I've watched of his, I think he's really, really entertaining.
So someone's asking if there's any major belts changing hands at the Rumble. I think definitely, but I think one of those world title changes hands for sure. I think tomorrow night's SmackDown will kind of give a good idea of what it will be. But my guess is Roman Reigns wins the Universal Championship.
It's come to that.
Yeah.
You know how I would accept that if man, we're not going to see Balor. Balor's not coming back for the Rumble, right? He's just not.
And I doubt it. I mean, his injury was said to be worse than it was. So, and he's looked kind of small. So, I don't think he's ready yet.
Yeah, that would be the acceptable way for Reigns to win, in my opinion, is to have Balor in there and then restart that storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, SmackDown should be interesting tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So we'll be back here on Wednesday to talk about SmackDown Live, myself, Raj, and Mr. Matt Morgan, giving our final Royal Rumble predictions. And of course, talking about SmackDown Live that's going to air tomorrow night, January 24th on the USA Network. Raj, anything else we want to cover or plug before we go home here?
No, I think that's it.
Cool, guys. So in the meantime, you can follow both Raj and myself on Twitter. Our handles are linked there in the show notes. Leave us a rating or subscribe on YouTube or iTunes. And yeah, until next time, everybody, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and I'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.